Tonight's shir is chis for Akiva Simcha ben Feiga, for Ziv Guggen for Chav Bas Miriam, Ahuv Bas Miriam, and Dudari ben Pinin Perel. All right, let's get started. Just a reminder, we're starting Chav Dalet. Oh mine. Okay, so now just a reminder, we're starting from Chav Dalet Amud Aleph. We're 3 lines down by Kasha. Just remember, we're doing the Chazara. Today we're gonna get till the end where we got up to. It's one full daf. It's very simple, very smooth. We're going to try to get through it. One more thing, right now when we start, we're discussing Reb Meir and Reb Yehuda, right? The pshat in each one, and we spoke about the B'kiyas Hanoid, where Reb Meir said that if it breaks, we're not concerned it's going to break, therefore you could drink it right away, and you could transfer it over. Reb Yehuda says you can't, and then by us, by our Gemara, he says you cannot. Reb Meir says that you cannot use an animal for a wall of the Sukka, and Reb Yehuda says you can. Very simple. Chav Dalet Amud Aleph, 4 lines down. Kasha, right? Kasha de Reb Meir. Why? Because Reb Meir by us says you can't use the animal for the wall, but Reb Meir over here says you could drink from it, meaning he's not concerned it's going to break. Right? By us, he's not concerned it's going to die. Here it is. It's a kasha. It's a stira. So Amlach Reb Meir says Misa Shchicha. Why is it different by us? Is because dying is much more common than B'kiyas Hanoid. Why? Because not every barrel breaks. Every animal ends up dying. And even more so, it could be he gave it over to a shaymer, and therefore it is more protected. We're talking about the jug. Fine. Now we're going to flip it and go back to Rabbi Yehuda. Kasha Rabbi Yehuda. Why? Because he's the exact opposite of Amir. So, time with Rabbi Yehuda, lav mishum dechayish lebekiyas hanoid, ela mishum bless lebreira. Basically, he says, it's not, Rabbi Yehuda didn't say that you can't drink because he's concerned it's going to break. He has a different thing. He says breira. If you guys remember, breira is that at the end, let's say when Motzei Shabbos comes, he's lemafreya, he's retroactively being mafresh the truma. That's what breira is. In the future, it's like retroactive. So now we're going to ask, really, is that the case? Rabbi Yehuda doesn't hold that he's concerned that the barrel may break. Vaha midik tani seifa. And if you continue that brisa, the brisa by B'kiyas Hanoid, if you read a few more lines, look what it says. Rabbi Yehuda said over to Reb Meir, are you not going to be moided to me that you're concerned maybe a little bit that the barrel may break? And then what happens? And then it comes out this person is drinking tevel retroactively, which is, there's a shtigul chi of misa. It's a problem. And what does Reb Meir say over there? When it breaks, come to me then. Mechlal. So this implies the chayish Rabbi Yehuda lebekiyas hanoid. The Rabbi Yehuda is chayish for b'kiyas hanoid. So obviously, see, Rabbi Yehuda is chayish for b'kiyas hanoid, and over there not. So hasam. So here, how does he answer himself? He says, hasam Rabbi Yehuda hu dika amar Reb Meir. So you have to read it like this: Lidi di lesli breira. To me, I don't have the problem of breira. So that's why I don't have this issue of I don't hold of this retroactive thing. But according to you, that you hold of this concept of retroactively, aren't you somewhat concerned that the jug may break? So what does he say? He still stands strong. When it breaks, come to me. Don't bother me otherwise. So now we're going to continue. Now we're going to go back all the way through. What did we say? Rabbi Yehuda is not chayish for misa that the animal will die. So he says you could use an animal. But we have a Mishnah in Yuma. Rabbi Yehuda says, Af isha acheres metaknin loy shema tamas eshtay. We prepare for the Kohen Gadol. I don't know if you guys remember, we spoke about the Kohen Gadol there's a pasuk that says, Asher loy v'chiper ba'adei ba'ad beisai. And beisai means his wife. So Kohen Gadol can't do the avodah Yom Kippur if he's not married. So you prepare a second wife just in case his first one dies. Ha it marla. But if you look further over there, and this is the answer, very simple. We did extra stringencies. Why? Because it's Yom Kippur. It's a different thing. Let's not try to mix these two together. It's a different scenario. Now, this sort of ends it, and then we're going to go back. This whole thing that we got up to here was really going through Abaya when we went through his explanation on Reb Meir. But now we're going to go Bein Laman Da'amar Shema Tamus, which was Abaya. Bein Laman Da'amar Shema Tivrach, which was Reb Zera. No, Abaya and Reb Zera on Reb Meir. Midaraisa, Mechitza malihi. Everyone agrees that midaraisa, this would be a good mechitza. An animal would be a good mechitza. V'rabbanan hu degazerba, it's the Rabbanan who said that you can't use an animal for a wall. Ella me'ata, if that's the case from here we would see the Reb Meir tetam mishum goyel. Now what does this mean? That it should be tummy from goyel. Now just to remember, there's 4 or 5 different scenarios that Reb Meir says all these things you cannot use an animal for, a partition. One was for the diumid, for the 4 corners, right? Remember when it was pasi birois? One was a wall for a sukkah. One of the things was goyel lekever, a cover for the casket. You cannot. Reb Meir says you cannot use it. However, if midaraisa you could use it, then midaraisa, it would be a good goyel, it would be a good covering, which would mean it would transmit tumah. And Reb Meir says that you cannot use it, which means he's basically saying you would not transmit tumah, which is a kula. So, according to this, now the next line is going to go through this, but according to this first line, it should be tameh. Alamatnan, why then does he say in the Mishnah, Rabbi Yehuda metame mishum goyel, Rabbi Meir metaher, and Rashi says even explicitly he's using mamash halashon of metaher. Like why is he so clearly saying it's okay? Ella, so comes Rav Acha bar Yaakov and he's going to explain it. Ella Omer Rav Acha bar Yaakov, Kasava Rav Meir, Kol mechitza she'medis beruach ena mechitza. So he says no, forget about all this that it's going to die. Not to, Rav Meir says a mechitza that stands with ear is not a mechitza. And Ikadami, there are those that say that Rabbi Acha bar Yaakov said something else. Amar Rav Acha bar Yaakov, Kasavar Meir, Kol mechitza she'ena asi b'dei adam, ena mechitza. Any mechitza that is not man-made is not a mechitza. Now we're going to ask my benayu, what's the difference between whether it's man-made or if it has ear holding it up? Ike benayu, the oikma benay tabuach. The difference is if there's sort of a blown-up balloon that is holding up the wall. Why? How's your difference? If, according to Man Damar, that says it would not be good if it is that it's held up by wind or air, it is held up by air, so it should be no good. So it should be good. So according to one, it should be no good. According to one, it should be good, and that's pretty much how we understand the split. But again, it's going to go according to Rav Acha bar Yaakov. We're not sure exactly how we go, but this would be the difference. Now we're going back to, if you remember when Reb Meir said his whole thing, at the end he says, Af Oimrim Mishum Rabbi Seglili, we say also from Rabbi Seglili that we don't do Gita Nashim on an animal. Okay, and that's what we're going to go through right now, and we're going to explain. Amar Mar. Sorry, what? Amar Mar Mishum Rabbi Seglili. So he said in the name of Rabbi Seglili, Amru, Af Ein Koisrim Olav Gita Nashim. We also don't write Gita Nashim on an animal. My time with Rabbi Seglili, what's the reason of Rabbi Seglili? The Tanya, because we have a brayso says Sefer. Remember, Sefer Krisis. Sefer tells you, Ainli Ella Sefer, meaning only klaf, nothing else. Minayin l'Rabbi is called over. So where do we know that you could add and write on anything? V'kosav la mikol makom. V'kosav la mikol makom. The words v'kosav la adds on anything. Imkein ma'atam la Sefer. If that's the case, and mikol makom includes everything, why do you need the word sefer? Included in everything is sefer, right? You with me? Yeah, okay. To tell you, ma sefer davar shein b'ruach hayim v'eino eichel af kol davar shein b'ruach hayim v'eino eichel. So added onto it, anything that has ruach hayim and doesn't eat would be disqualified. V'rabbanan and the rabbanan iksiv b'sefer. So they say they don't hold of this whole thing of sefer being klaf. Why? Because they say iksiv b'sefer. What is said b'sefer with a beis? Kidikamret. They would have agreed to Rabbi Seglili. But since it didn't say that, hasha d'chsev sefer. The pasuk says sefer without the beis. The sfiras dvarim ba'al mahuda. So it's coming to tell you that it has to be something written down. V'rabbanan hai v'kosav my darshibe. Okay, very good. So now we know there needs to be sfiras dvarim ba'alma. So what do they use v'kosav law? So they say they learn it out. Hahum bailu b'ksivim izgrashes. They say they use that because of to tell you that you're being megarish with writing and not with money. Why? Because I may have thought, since it puts these two right next to each other, the person being divorced, so getting married, just like a person gets married, right, with kesef shtam. So kesef is one of them. So too, they should be able to get divorced with kesef. Kamash Malon, the Vikosava tells you, no, only with the writing. Very good. So now Rabbi Yossi Glili, what does he learn? That it has to be a shtar, meaning ksiva, and not kesef. So he says, mi sefer krisis nafkal. He learns it from the words sefer krisis. I don't know if you guys remember the paper. We had the two words next to each other, sefer krisis. So that's where he gets it from. Sefer karsa, vein davar achar karsa. Only a sefer can, the karsa means like, it's like severance, like a cutoff. So that could cut them off and not anything else. V'idach. Now we're going back to the Rabbanon. Hahu, what do they use? Sefer krisis. They learn, they come to tell you, it tells you something that separates between him and her. Now what cuts them off? Tanya, like we have a Bryce, and that's going to give us an example. This is your get on condition you don't drink wine or you don't go to your father's house the rest of your life, forever. This is not a cutoff because there could always potentially be a scenario where she goes back. If he says, however, 30 days or gives a time limit, that would work. Why? Because there is a time limit and that would cut them off. Now, going back, basically, he learned it from a different thing. Because now he has to learn it out, right? He has to understand this pshat of something that cuts off between the two of them. He learns it out from karas krisis, the fact that it has the extra saf. So, vidach karas krisis loy darshi, and what happens? The Rabbanan say we don't have to learn out karas krisis, the extra letter. It's fine. We're good as is. Nu Mishnah, nu sugya. If someone makes a sukkah in between the trees, meaning he uses the trees as the walls of the sukkah, then it's kosher. Simple. Rav Acha bar Yaakov comes and says a ruling. Any mechitza that cannot stand on a regular wind is not a mechitza. It's no good. So Tanan, we have a Mishnah, our Mishnah that we just said. It's kosher. What's the issue? The issue is that by us, we're saying that trees are good, but the trees wave in the wind. And he's saying anything that moves is no good. If it can't withstand. Obviously, the branches of the trees. It's talking about moving the branches. They move to and fro. They mamash move. It's not. We're going to go through the whole thing. It's going to go through it. No, but yes, anything. If it moves, it's not a wall. We're not talking about obviously moving 2-3 inches. We're talking about a good wind blown branches. However, it moves. The trees moves. On here with what are we dealing? Bekashin with a strong tree. So we're going to ask, okay, very good. You're saying with a strong tree. Bekashin with the trunk of a tree. It's not moving. Big stump. Like you're saying, it's not moving. So the answer is, the question really, but there's branches and the branches really move. So we're going to get this again. Remember, we're going to go through 4 scenarios and we're going to end up with the same answer of each one. That he braided it with good palm branches and daphne branches, so it's not moving. Okay, so now we're going to ask, if that's the case, what was the whole point of the Mishnah? Why do we need to say this? What's the chiddush? I may have thought that we're bringing this because you would potentially use a tree, right? So it should be pusal. Kamashmon, it's kosher. That's the whole point of the Mishnah. It's coming to tell you that you may think that you can't use the tree as a wall. You can, obviously, as long as you braid it. Okay. Toshma, come in here. This is going to be case number 2. If the person had over there a tree, a fence, or a partition of kanim, which are reeds, nidin mishum diyumid means it would be good, this well in the middle, and these 4 walls would be good for diyumid, which is for passive rice. Remember, this is again the well in the middle, and we had on the 4 corners. If let's say one of the corners was one of these stuff, and what we're talking about is the tree, it would be good. So what do we say? Hasam nami, same answer, mishum, david lebutza v'dafna. Okay. Tashma, case number 3. Ilan ha-mesach al haaretz, a tree that is sort of hanging over and creating a canopy and leaning onto the ground. If it's not more than 3 tvachim from the ground, you can carry beneath it. Why? Because you say lavud, and it connects. Amai why hakaz vasi? Same question. It's moving in the wind. Hasamnami david lebutza v'dafna. Same thing, same answer. It was braided and structured strongly. Hihachi if so nitat lebikule. I remember when we learned this the first time, we said this is a funny question. Who said not? And now we're going to see. It's going to say the next line. Why did Rav Huna, the son of Rabbi Yeshua, say that you can't carry beneath it only up until Beis Hasayim? And Beis Hasayim is like the courtyard in the Mishkan, which was a 50 by 50. 50 amos by 50 amos. Mishum dahavi diro shemishtamsha la'avir. The reason why is because this is not stam a regular living area, regular residence. It's a dira that you're using it primarily for the outside of it. V'chol dira shetashmishel la'avir, and any dira that your usage is for the outside, like we said, they're just sitting there to enjoy the shade, but really they're watching the outside. You don't carry in it only up until a Beis Hasayim. Simple. Now we're going to get to the fourth and final scenario. Toshma, Shevis Betel, someone who established Shabbos on a hill, a mound. Shehu Gavoya,
on a platform.
Yeah, but on the mound. It's somewhere outside. Use outside. Shehu Gavoya Asar, that's 10 Tvachim high. Vu Me'arba Amos Had Beis Hasayim. And it is between 4 Amos and a Beis Hasayim, which you said was like 50 by 50. V'chein Beneka. So too with a cleft, meaning it's dug down. Shu amek asar, that's 10 tvachim deep. V'hu me'arba ames ad beis hasayim. Again, arba ames till beis hasayim. V'chein kama ktsura. So too if, let's say, there's grains and they're cut. V'shi b'eles makifois oisa. And he has bundles that are surrounding it, meaning bundles, stalks that are surrounding it, meaning you have in the middle area that was cut, and all around you still have the stalks. Imagine a corn maze, right? You go into a corn maze, in the center you have sort of the area that you can walk, and then you have the corn all around you. Makivas that are surrounding him. Mahalches kula, he could go throughout the entire inside of that. V'chutza alpayim amma, like the Tchum Shabbos, he's able to go outside of it 2,000 amma. Afagav de kalzavasi, and we see even though it's kalzavasi, what do we say? Hasumnami, the Avadle Boots of Adafna. There too, we say it was made Boots of Adafna, and we still have a few more, just a little bit more. Welcome. So, Mishnah. Shluchim etzab turim in a sukkah. Now, this is the final part, and we're discussing, the Mishnah says 3 things, and we're going to, primarily, the Gemara is going to discuss the first one of the 3. Shluchim etzab turim in a sukkah. People who are shluchim etzab part from the sukkah. Choylin umisham shein, a choyle and his helper, Peturim in a sukkah, part of the sukkah. So also, number 3, you could eat and drink outside of a sukkah arai, small amounts. From where do we know this? That Isaac Mitzvah is part from the sukkah. The Tana Rabbana we learned in the Rabbana learned. B'shivtecha b'veisecha. They learned it from Kriya Shema. B'shivtecha b'veisecha. It's in Devarim. Prat l'Isaac b'mitzvah. Uvelechtecha b'derech. Prat l'chasen. And like we said, why do we need the second one for the chasen? Because the chasen is not actually being Isaac right now in the mitzvah, he's just Tarad, so it's a second level. Mikan from here we see, Hakanis is Absula Pater. Someone who marries Absula is Pater. Vesamana Chayev, meaning he's Chayev in Kriya Shema, Chayev in the mitzvahs. My mashma, how does the pasuk, what do we see that it's implied from the pasuk, that what? That it's taka Pater from the mitzvah. Amar Avuna Kederach, we learn it from the word derech. Just like ma derech rishos, just like any derech that a person does is a rishos. Af kol rishos lafuke hai de mitzvah asik. So too, any. I'm sorry, I read that in one line, but one more time. Ma derech rishos, af kol rishos lafuke. That's sort of contrasting hai de mitzvah asik. That when he's asik in a mitzvah, meaning if you're doing a rishos, you're chayiv. If you're asik in a mitzvah, you're not. Mila Yaskinan, 1 second. Who said we're not talking about a mitzvah? Mila Yaskin the cause of Dvar mitzvah. Who said he's not going for a Dvar mitzvah? Maybe he is. The Kamarachman Likri. And then what does the Torah say to read? So maybe even someone who's going for Dvar mitzvah will be chayiv in Kriya Shema, which would result by us chayiv in Sukkah. Imkein lema kra. If that were the case, the pasuk would say b'sheves uveleches. My b'shiftecha uvelechtecha. What's your going? You're sitting. B'leches didach u'demachayeves. Ha-b'leches the mitzvah. If you're going for your own, that you have. If you're going for mitzvah, you're pater. If someone's koines to almana, he should also be pater. So we say koines is absu tarid, koines almana light tarid, and we explained then that he's more. He knows that there's with an almana there's no possibility that she has psulim. With a psul there could be, and he wants to he's more tired and is more worried, nervous. Yeah. 1 second. If that's the case, what are you saying? That anytime someone's tired, he should be pater from the mitzvahs? El me'ata tava v'nasa b'yam the tired hachanami the pater. That what? If someone's boat sank, obviously he's tired, he should also be pater. And what do we say? We say v'chi tema hachanami. If that were the case, let's go according to that principle, that assumption. Taka, someone who's tired is pater. Let's go according to that. V'amar v'av bar zav d'amarav aval chayav b'kol ha-mitzvahs somewhere b'Torah. What? An aval is chayav in all the mitzvahs in the Torah. And who's more tired than an aval? Aval just lost either a father, a parent, a child, a sibling. They're the most tired. And what do we say there? You chayav in all the mitzvahs besides for one, meaning all the mitzvahs. Chutz min ha-tefillin sharei namar be'en pe'er. That's a crown. Hacha. So what's the answer? Hacha tired to the mitzvah. Over here, the chassan is tired in a tir de mitzvah. Hasam tired tir de rishos. Over there, he's tired in a tir de rishos, meaning, like Rashi says, the second to last line, Eina chayiv mitzvah. He doesn't have a chiv to be mitzvah. So no one told you to be mitzvah. It's a rishos. Therefore, you'd be chayiv in all the mitzvahs. Now, everyone, remember over Yom Tiv, there's going to be a raffle. If you do, there's two $1,000 raffles and two $500 raffles from Kinei Masechta, and we're having two $250 raffles for anyone who does either the Gemara from the beginning of the parak till here, or 15 minutes every day, Chazara on the Gemara. Rabbi Sai, have a kushan Yom Tiv. We'll see you after.